Karmelo Anthony just got indicted for stabbing Austin Metcalf, and this is the first tweet that I see. They're trying to make an example of Karmelo Anthony to serve as a reminder to all of Black America. And you know what? I agree. The reminder is that if you stab somebody in the heart because they told you to move, you're going to prison for life.
Karmelo Anthony walked into the courtroom the moment the heavy doors opened. His shoulders slumped forward, his eyes locked on the ground, as if the weight of the past few weeks pressed on him like a storm that refused to clear. Gone was the confident young athlete people once admired. What now stood in front of everyone was a man drained of his shine, a figure nearly unrecognizable under the harsh glare of constant cameras and headlines. The story was no longer just about his career or his future. It had shifted into something far darker. His parents now faced murder charges tied to the death of Austin Metcalf, a name that has echoed through every news channel and courtroom discussion for weeks. With every update, Karmelo seemed to sink deeper into himself, unraveling under the spotlight.
I asked the grand jury to return a first-degree murder indictment against Karmelo Anthony, which they did.
A Texas district attorney taking to social media to announce Karmelo Anthony is formally facing charges that could lock him up for life.
Reporters whispered that he hardly spoke, even to his own lawyers. Courtroom staff confirmed it. He didn't answer shouted questions in the hallway, didn't share nervous jokes with his defense team, and didn't try to defend his image in public. Instead, he sat quietly at the defense table, watching, listening, but barely participating. Witnesses described him as unstable, not in an explosive or violent way, but in a haunting, unsettling stillness, as if his mind drifted somewhere else entirely. For prosecutors, the case was bigger than Karmelo's silence. They reminded the court that the story centered on what they claimed was a carefully designed plan, a financial trail, a set of choices, a family conspiracy. It all led to tragedy that unfolded in that tent at a high school track meet. And each new piece of evidence landed like a punch, pushing Karmelo further into his own shadow. Just a few feet away, the Meta family sat in silence. No shouting, no tears, just steady eyes locked on Karmelo, the young man they believed helped destroy their son's life. Their presence filled the room with tension so thick it felt like air itself had weight. Everyone whispered the same question. If this is how he's collapsing before the trial even begins, what will happen when the verdict is read? The prosecutors soon introduced a different kind of evidence. This wasn't about bank accounts or secret phone calls. It was about Karmelo himself, his state of mind after his parents' arrests. They showed the jury a collection of photos and video clips. Some came from news footage, some from courthouse security cameras. Each one painted the same picture. Karmelo looked thinner, more hollow. He avoided eye contact. He walked as though the floor carried lead. In one clip taken just 2 weeks earlier, he stopped mid-step outside the courthouse after a reporter asked about the Meta family. For several long seconds, he simply stared into nothing before walking away in the wrong direction, leaving his lawyers scrambling behind him. Court insiders revealed that his attorneys had asked for extra breaks during hearings, citing his emotional decline. He skipped meals, struggled to sleep, and often sat alone in holding cells for hours at a time. One insider even said he had been placed under special watch, words usually reserved for prisoners considered fragile or at risk. The Meta family's lawyer used that silence against him. He isn't grieving, the attorney argued. He's guilty. The defense shot back, insisting this was trauma, not confession. But out in the world, few cared about the difference. Social media flooded with side-by-side pictures of Karmelo, before his parents' arrest, smiling and bright, and after, looking empty. Captions read, "You can see it in his eyes. This isn't the same person." The trial now balanced on two questions. What exactly happened the night Austin Meta died, and was Karmelo's unraveling a sign of guilt or simply the collapse of a young man under unbearable strain? Things escalated when a private counseling report was introduced. The defense had fought hard to keep it sealed, but the judge sided with the prosecution. Passages were read aloud in court. The prison psychologist described Karmelo pacing through the night, muttering to himself. Sometimes he whispered the same phrase, I didn't know, for nearly 20 minutes straight while staring at a blank wall. After one harsh cross-examination, he refused to speak to anyone at all for an entire day. A still image taken in the courthouse hallway drove the point home. It showed Karmelo leaning forward, elbows on his knees, his face buried in his hands, silent. A deputy sat nearby. The only movement in the frame was the slow tapping of Karmelo's foot against the floor. The prosecution argued this was proof his lies were collapsing on him. The defense painted it differently, the portrait of a young man drowning in trauma, watching his family name and future crumble in real time. The judge reminded the jury to focus on evidence, not sympathy. But for everyone watching, the line between the two blurred more each day. Then came the recorded phone calls. On the courtroom screen, text transcripts flickered alongside the audio. These weren't long conversations. They were brief, fractured, and raw, captured in the days following his parents' new conspiracy charges. In one, Karmelo's voice broke through. I don't know how much longer I can do this. Then silence, stretched so long it made jurors shift in their seats. In another, he muttered, "It's falling apart." A loud slam followed, maybe his hand striking the desk, before heavy breathing filled the recording. The prosecution argued these weren't just words, they were glimpses of a mind unraveling. Federal officers later confirmed he was placed under closer supervision, describing skipped meals, withdrawn behavior, and refusal to join daily routines. His lawyers objected, calling the tapes irrelevant, but prosecutors insisted his mental decline was tied to the larger conspiracy. Stress, they claimed, could push him to reveal truths or cause him to slip into dangerous confusion. Outside the courtroom, commentators debated the meaning. Was this guilt seeping through, or the crushing loneliness of public judgment? Either way, the image of Karmelo as a composed athlete had been replaced by that of a fragile figure teetering on the edge. Then the prison psychologist herself took the stand. Calm, professional, and confident, she described Karmelo's breakdown in clinical terms. He often paced in tight circles until guards stepped in. He barely slept, collapsing midday in his bunk. And his journals, seized from his cell, told an even darker story. Written in broken lines, his entries read like cries from a collapsing mind. No way out. It doesn't matter anymore. They destroyed me. Many were scratched so deeply into the paper that the pen nearly tore through. The courtroom fell silent. The prosecution argued these notes proved his guilt was eating him alive. The defense countered that it was the grief of someone losing everything: his parents, his home, his name. Next, a corrections officer testified. His account struck even harder. He described finding Karmelo sitting on the cold cell floor, staring blankly at the wall for hours. Another time, Karmelo whispered, "I have nothing left," when asked to stand for head count. But the most alarming moment came just 4 days earlier. Guards discovered strips torn from his bedsheet hidden under his mattress. Though no direct action was taken then, protocol demanded he be placed under strict observation. He didn't resist. He didn't speak, the officer explained. It was like we weren't even in the room. The prosecution seized on this testimony, claiming Karmelo was crumbling faster than the trial could move forward. Defense lawyers objected, accusing the state of exploiting his mental health, but the judge allowed it, citing its relevance. Tension spread across the courtroom. Reporters scribbled furiously, already planning headlines. The Mehta family sat rigid, their expressions unreadable. The final blow came with a recording from just 2 nights earlier. In the audio, Karmelo's voice shook as he spoke to an unidentified caller. "Everything's gone. My parents, the house, the cars. "I don't even know if I can survive this. I'm finished." Silence followed, thick and suffocating. The defense shifted uneasily, bracing for the jury's reaction. The prosecution didn't move, letting the words hang. The Mehta family exchanged glances. No celebration, just grim acknowledgement. When the judge finally called recess, no one stood right away. Jurors stared ahead, reporters typed furiously, and the phrase "emotional breaking point" appeared on laptop screens. Karmelo walked out with his head low, slower than before, almost unrecognizable from the athlete who once thrived in front of crowds. And as the doors shut behind him, one truth lingered above everything else. This trial was no longer just about guilt or innocence. The real question had become whether Karmelo Anthony could endure the crushing weight pressing down on him, or whether the trial itself would break him before the verdict ever arrived. As this chapter of Karmelo Anthony's life unfolds in front of the world, one thing is certain: this is no longer just a legal battle. It is a test of human strength, a fight between truth, survival, and the crushing pressure of public judgment. The prosecution wants the jury to see guilt in every silent pause, every broken sentence, and every journal entry. The defense wants us to see pain, a young man trapped in circumstances too heavy for anyone his age to carry. The cameras will keep rolling, the headlines will keep coming, and the whispers will only grow louder. But behind every report and every photo is a person who is clearly breaking apart under the spotlight. Whether Karmelo is guilty of the crime or simply another casualty of the storm around him, one fact remains: he may not walk out of this trial the same person who walked in. So now we wait. Will the pressure destroy him completely, or will he somehow find the strength to face what comes next? Only time and the final verdict will answer that question.